Do you know what the most important position is in personal development? It's the goalie. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. And you know, one of the things that came to mind this week, as we start change over from summer to fall, is some of the things that were constantly repeated. Now, essentially, there are three sides to the balance sheet. There's the personal side, the spiritual side, and the business side. Let's talk a little bit about the spiritual side right now. One of the very first people that I mentored, and this is like years and years ago, right now he's a very, very successful person with a major company. His name was Vincent. And Vincent talked to me one day about, Vincent's very religious, and he talked to me about going to church. And he said, Eli's dad, the reason why I go to church every Sunday is to get a fill-up. And I looked at him and he said, because life is about avoiding temptation and embracing challenges. And when I go to church, they say pretty much the same thing week after week after week, but it just refills my fuel tank so that it helps me to avoid the temptations of life and embrace challenges where I can keep my focus. Well, the exact same principle applies on the business side of the balance sheet. And the key thing about that, what keeps you focused there, is not just attending church as an example, but the church you want to attend is having specific goals. Doing the same things over and over and over again in your life and achieving them means setting good, clear goals. And under that heading, going back to basics, I looked up a few things that people said about goals. I want to go over a few of them with you right now. Don't be a time manager. Be a priority manager. Cut your major goals into bite-sized pieces. Each small priority or requirement on the way to ultimate goal becomes a mini goal in and of itself. And that's famous writer Dennis Waitley. One of the key things about setting goals is you have a big vision, but you must chunk it down into smaller bite-sized pieces and achieve your objectives day by day, focusing on each bite-sized piece as it relates to the big picture. So the key thing is when people set goals, sometimes they say, oh, that's so big, there's so many things to do. When you chunk things down into smaller pieces, you can achieve them on a regular basis. Keep that in mind when you're setting your goals. Make sure that you break them down. Simon Sinek tells us, though we may have desires or bold goals, for whatever reason, most of us don't think we can achieve something beyond what we're qualified to achieve. Why, I ask, do we let reality interfere with our dreams? Very key point here. People in society as a whole makes its advances when some individual or group of people come together with a particular dream that is out of the box, that rank and file people could never envision. I mean, as an example, if you want to talk about, let's say, Revolutionary War America, let's say the 1700s, all right, when we were fighting a Revolutionary War, could anyone there even imagine sending a rocket to the moon? They couldn't even imagine it. But as time went along, little bits and pieces grew up, and it made the next thought more believable. It made the next thought more believable, until somewhere, someday, I actually believe that we're going to be able to energize like they do on Star Trek, where you go from one place to another because they take your molecular structure and send it thousands of miles away. I really believe that that will do it, because we can see that happening. And somewhere down the road, someone's going to come up with an idea that's going to make that happen. But the point is, anything that people achieve that way starts off with a dream, and that dream is not typically based upon the current reality, but remember, the current reality changes as society advances technologically. Susie Orman tells us, recast your current problems into proactive goals. This is a very, very key point. You know, when you look at a problem as a problem, that means there's something that you need to overcome and you're not able to do it. When you look at a problem as an unsolved opportunity, then you say to yourself, how can I overcome this roadblock? And that mindset is definitely a key to goal achievement. So make sure that the question you're asking is, how can I, instead of saying I can't do that, and turn your challenges into proactive goals. Paul J. Meyer tells us, if you're not making the progress that you'd like to make and are capable of making, it's simply because your goals are not clearly defined. This is one of the major stumbling blocks to people achieving, is that when they're setting their goals are not crystal clear. That's why it's so imperative that people write down their individual goals, because when you write something down, that gives it clarity, because you have to make it a sentence that makes sense. So make sure that your goals have specific clarity to them, just the same way as you say to yourself, you know what, today I have to go to, the doctor's office. So it means I have to get up at a certain time, means I have to get dressed a certain way, means I may or may not have to fast before I go to the doctor, means I have to give myself time to get there so I can fill out all the paperwork in the waiting room, so on and so forth. You have to leave time for traffic, may be an issue because you want to show up on time even though they're never on time. But you get my point. So the thing is, when you have a clearly defined goal, then you're able to chunk things down into specific objectives that you need to accomplish. But that requires a certain clarity, doesn't it? So make sure that you write it down. This is from a lady named Melody Beatty. The new year stands before us like a chapter in a book, waiting to be written. We can help write that story by setting goals. Now, when I saw that particular quote, I made one slight little change. Instead of saying the new year, why don't we say the new normal stands before us like a chapter in a book? This is a new starting line for us. It allows you to think from a new perspective, a new angle, a new dimension, a new paradigm. And when you think from a different paradigm, because the situation has changed, that gives you opportunities to make new advances. New challenges come up because of our present situation. The people that make it are the ones that are creative, that can envision something that's going to solve the particular challenge, and this is the time to start having those types of visions, because it's a new normal, a new starting line. That's essentially what you do in the success formula. You go from starting line to starting line to starting line, because you're going to run into a roadblock or a pothole or some sort of a tree is going to get down in your way. The point is, you need to overcome these individual obstacles. The new normal is merely a new obstacle, and if you look at it as an opportunity instead of a detriment, you can make some serious progress, can't you? People's behavior makes sense if you think about it in terms of their goals, needs, and motives. And that's a quote from Thomas Mann. People that are on the achieving highway will take with their tunnel vision, will assume a certain posture, a certain attitude toward achieving that goal once it's clear. I will not be denied. I'm going from here to here, from here to here. Sometimes I have to make a detour, but once people have a definite clarity of purpose, they will have tunnel vision, their attitude changes, and they have a very clear and direct focus. So make sure that, you know, when you have your goal and you achieve that clear focus, don't be distracted by people saying, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, that's not you. Keep your focus. Remember, things are divided up. Successful people are divided 95%, 5%. If you want to be the 1 out of 20, you're not going to act the same way that the other 19 act. Keep that in mind. Does that make sense? We will have some more thoughts on goal setting next time we get together. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, make sure you get your goals, make sure you write them down, and let's get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.